So Overwatch dropped a huge patch this week for Season 1, and we're going to go over all the stadium changes. If you want to hear me go through some of the other changes in the patch, just let me know. So probably the biggest change, at least for competitive, is that powers are now granted on rounds 1, 2, 4, and 6 instead of 1, 3, 5, and 7. So this is kind of a middle ground of how things were before and with quick play, and you can get your core build faster, get going faster. And it will help the losing team make a comeback easier. I tried a few games like this, and I like being able to get my build faster. Also, we have a new push map in Serenza. The other major thing they added was a hero builder. So this will basically recommend powers and items for you to get on specific types of builds. I haven't really messed with this yet, but I guess this is good for people new to Stadium. And of course they're adding Vendetta to Stadium, and she's getting a whole set of powers and a few new items for her. But if you want me to break her down specifically, let me know. I can do that in another video. And Ashe got a rework where a bunch of her powers got replaced. And if you want me to break her down, let me know. But one of her new powers lets her reposition Bob after she sends him out, which is really nice. And now we'll go over the hero specific updates. For D.Va, they changed her ignition burst power, so it no longer spawns lava, but instead burns enemies that get knocked back from her boosters. I am going to miss the lava, but I guess this will essentially do the same thing as before. Doomfist has gained some buffs to his tankier build to help hopefully with his low win rate. So his Seismic Rally gives more max life overhealth per second, Block Party heals him more, Rising Uppercut has a lower cooldown. And then for Asteroid Smash, they lowered the cooldown, they increased the maximum impact damage, and now it triggers overhealth from the best defense. And finally, his Quick Charger item has a reduced cost. Next is Orisa. For her Hot Rotate power, it got redesigned to where when you overheat, Javelin Spin's cooldown gets reduced by 100%. And now her Shield Divergence just quickly throws the barrier in front of her instead of being thrown wherever she's aiming. And then her 3D printed lance got a new effect to where Energy Javelin will reduce the cooldown by 50% if it hits something. Alright, next is Reinhardt. So for his Fire Strike builds, Magma Strike makes the lava last longer now, Blazing Blitz gives him 25% starting ult charge, and Chimera Maul got reworked, so now if you hit an airborne target above 3 meters, it burns them for 20% of Fire Strike's damage. Now for Sigma, he has a new effect to his max driver power, to where his experimental barrier heals for 100 health when his accretion projectile passes through it. Then for Event Horizon, now Kinetic Grasp also gives overhealth to allies, and for Singularity, accretion's cooldown is reduced by 25% on a direct hit. Then finally, for Apogee Alignment, Hypersphere damage is decreased. Now for Winston, they changed his Primal Slam to where the jump pack cooldown is triggered again with max cooldown when using Primal Slam. And then for his Premium Peanut Butter, they upgraded the rarity and the cost, but doubled the health. And then for his S Pace armor, they lowered the rarity, lowered the cost, and reduced the armor again. And next is Freya. For her Lilfeld power, the mini bola damage decreased to 40% reduced. For So Cooked, the bola damaging zone bonus got decreased to 20%. And for Volley Adwa, the bonus shot damage got decreased to 50% reduced. Now Genji got a couple of nice buffs. For his Deflectobot power, the deflected projectile speed bonus got increased to 200%, and the auto-targeting duration got increased to 2 seconds. And then for his Sacred Shuriken power, it added a 50% primary fire projectile speed. A Reaper only got one change, but it's a really nice quality of life change. So now for his Death Step power, he can cancel out the Death Blossom after using Shadow Step. And Sojourn got a pretty straightforward change. Basically just a bunch of her items got reduced in cost so she could build faster. So the items are Special Shots, Murphy's Motor Module, Shaw Mat Stratagem, Calf Calibrator, Afterburners, and Rocket Power Javelin. Next for Lucio. For his Reverb power, the free cast window got increased and the free cast effectiveness got increased to 70%. For Signature Shift, now it triggers on gadget use, and it added a restored 10% max ammo after ability and gadget use effect. The Radio Edit, the triggered sound barrier overhealth is increased to only 80% reduced, and then his Hip Hop Survival item got a reduced cost. Then we go on to Mercy. So her general baseline damage boost got reduced to 20%, and for her Threads of Fate power, the additional chain effectiveness got reduced to 30%. And Tethered Tourniquet no longer resets the buff duration when you switch between weapons. And for her equivalent exchange power, they added an effect of dealing 1000 damage with her pistol, restores 1 charge or resurrect. And for her battle medic power, they changed the power to, after swapping to the pistol, she deals 20% increased damage and gains 20% lifesteal for 1 second for every second that you spend tethered, up to 15. And it no longer resets the buff duration when reloading or switching between weapons. And then finally for her celestial clip, the cost got reduced to 9,000. Now Moira, now she earns less currency from dealing damage and healing. For her cross orbital power, they reduced the capacity of bonus orbs down to 60% reduced. For chain grasp, the multi-targeting duration increased to 4 seconds. And for scientific death hog, the ultimate charge per target pass through increased to 8%. And then finally we get to Zenyatta. We only made one change, and it's that for his Aura Perception item, instead of just giving 15% ability power, now it gives 15% ability power for each enemy discorded. Alright, and those are all the specific hero changes. Now we're just going to quickly go through all the general items that got changed. So for electrolytes, they added 30% move speed when you respawn. Running shoes got removed. For reflex coating, they reduced the overhealth and the duration. For ballistic buffer, the rarity got increased and the price got increased, and it got changed to after taking damage from airborne enemy above 3 meters, gain 50 overhealth for 3 seconds. Repulsion Greaves is a brand new item. Iron Eyes got changed to remove the movement speed and the shields, but now it adds 25 armor. For Bloodbound, they removed the health but added 25 armor and increased the effect by 5%. For the Mecha Z series, they added 25 health. They added a new item called Sunring Vial that gives 25 health, 5% weapon and ability power, and then damage applies 30% overhealth reduction for 3 seconds and reduces the enemy's existing overhealth by 30%. Then they removed Genesis Vial completely. Reinforced Titanium got changed to increase rarity, increased cost, more shield, added 10% ability damage reduction, and changed the effect to while you have shields gain 5% ability damage reduction, and your shields regenerate 33% faster. Phasmatic Flux gives less lifesteal. Ruston von Wilhelm got added to 50 health, but reduced the increase of health, armor, and shield percent. Crusader Hydraulic got changed to an epic item, more expensive, gives more armor, added 10% damage reduction, it has a new effect to where when an enemy deals damage to your armor, reduce their attack speed by 10% for 3 seconds. The range of Necrotic Repellent got increased, and Colossus Core got changed to have 50 armor, but doesn't give the 10% health, armor, and shields now. And something worth keeping in mind is that the heroes do not get the new passives from the subclasses in the main game. So for example, if I'm Zenyatta, I'm not going to get that extra 25% ult charge. And then finally, there will be new skins you can earn from competitive mode. For getting Elite, you'll get a Zenyatta skin for support, a Tracer skin for DPS, and a Sigma skin for tank. And then if you reach All-Star with any rank, you'll get a new Reinhardt skin. Alright, and that about covers everything. And that was only Stadium. And there's so many more changes that they added to the game. So if you want me to cover the rest of it, just let me know. But thank you guys for watching, and if you play Overwatch, I stream open lobbies every Saturday at Kane-27 if you want to hang out and join. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.